or Blackfoot or Cree. I mean, they're totally they're not even related sound wise. So anyway, teepee ends up being the easy word. So what's the proper spelling of teepee? None of them and all of them. So chew on that one for a while. But I prefer TIPI. I think that it does show respect and knowledge of the topic at hand, and for that reason, I will continue. Now, when I make my teepees nowadays, and I often use tarps. I so the only time I'll use a blue tarp is if I find one on the side of the road that's free. I'll call that a freebie. But when I make my teepees, because tarps are cheap, whether they're nylon, they're quite a bit expensive, or whether they're plastic, they're cheap because canvas ain't cheap. And cow hides and buffalo hides are. There's a buffalo hide teepee in a museum in South Dakota that was $35,000 to make. All right, it wasn't made by a native; it was made by a white guy. Sorry, people, but that's the way sometimes it goes. So cheap. And when I make a teepee that's made out of a tarp, and if I try to put smoke ears on it, and a door and real teepee pole, a lot of teepee poles that come up and cross and stick out the top, I call it a tarpie. But overall, and that's why when I on my YouTube channel on conical shelters, that's why I use conical shelters, because some of my conicals don't have poles sticking out the top. Some of my conicals don't have smoke flaps. They're cone shaped because a cone is a really good shape for shelter, easy to make, quick to put up. And remember, I'm into survival too. I'm not into reenacting. I'm not into role playing. I'm not into what we call LARPing. I'm not. I'm not into glamping. Glamping is one of the most recent industries coming on now, and I'm not into decorating to remake a historically accurate teepee. They're just wonderful to stay in for all kinds of good reasons, which anybody that has a teepee knows. Okay. But for the best two sources, I will say this again: the Laubin book and the Holly book. These are dynamite books. For good information. And Holly, I got to tell you, Holly gives a resource. She gives resources on where to buy them. And these teepees have now become all over the world. They've been culturally appropriated by more than just another Indian tribe moving on to the plains. They're in Australia, Austria, Germany, Spain, England. They're on all continents. Canada, French, Quebec, Florida, California. Colorado. I've seen teepees everywhere, from the hippie type people, and then of course there's the rendezvous people that try to reenact the flintlock mountain man days of the 1840s. So Australia, Belgium, Canada, Czech Republic, France, Germany, Great Britain, Scotland, India, Italy, Japan, Netherlands, Holland. Oh, where else are... Let's see, New Zealand, Poland, South Africa, South America, Spain, Switzerland. Holy schmoly, they're everywhere now. It's just not... And she's got a good bibliography in this book also. An excellent bibliography where you can go back and you can find out real good historical information about these things. Simple Shelters is a little book I picked up, and I had to make sure that, but on the front it has an earth lodge, and on the back it has a teepee. But when I looked up on Amazon for this, I had to make sure that I had something in there like that. And this covers shelters from around the world, but it does give a pretty okay it's not real deep, but gives you another source for any kind of shelter that's besides what we modern people live in now. Here's a modern how-to guide called Tipi by Javier and Diane Fry Cortez. And they're from Texas, and this book is from what year? 2011. They're from Texas, and basically they're just giving their personal journey, personal experience, personal information about teepees. These books do sometimes advertise where you can buy them from. Reese's Teepees, Nomadic Teepees. I finally bought one from Nomadic Teepee, but gotta finish harvesting a few more poles before I get to put it up. This last book I'm going to cover is on the origin of teepees. I ran into this. It was mentioned in a comment on somebody's YouTube video, which I forgot what the name of the video was, and I can't find the deal, but when I saw it, I had to get it. Now, Jonathan Hughes uses the teepee as kind of a central focal point, but he doesn't spend all that much time talking about teepees. And as far as I'm concerned, he makes a few mistakes too. I'm not trying to be critical. I can actually understand why he made some of his mistakes. But he takes a trip from Minneapolis and goes out to South and North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, and Alberta, Canada. And he visits different places and different tribes that have teepees. And he notices the differences in some of the teepees. Like, some teepees have longer smoke flaps. Some teepees are painted. Some teepees are not. Some are huge with big hourglass shape. The poles stick out the top as long as they do on the bottom. And he goes through, along the way, he talks about the evolution of barns and cowboy hats and cowboy mustaches and stuff. One of the most interesting things he covers is how the railroad divided the northern and southern the buffalo herds into the northern herd and the southern herd, and then how that eventually made it easy to wipe out the buffalo, which wiped out the Plains Indian culture. Because no food, no culture. He covers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 different Plains tribes. And his question is pretty much what came first, the 3-pole base or the 4-pole base. He concludes that it's the 4-pole base that evolved into the 3-pole base because, for different reasons, it's claimed that the 3-pole base is more stable. Actually depends on what order you put the poles up in, and whether you put points and bury them in the ground, points on the end of the poles, bury them in the ground, or if you add another stake of a rope coming down in the center of the teepee to hold it down. There's a lot of different reasons. If you have a big tall teepee like that, let's make it even skinnier. That's a big tall teepee like that. A wind comes along, it's going to be easier to knock down than a more squat, low. Boy, I can't straighten out my hands very well, can I? A more squat, low teepee, which